My friend told me that he likes me and I don't know what to think of it. What do I make of this? I have been friends with this guy for almost a year and we used to hang out at his house and drink beers and talk about random things. I never thought anything was weird. I've always had guy friends and always believed that men and women can be friends without being attracted to each other. This guy has a girlfriend of 3 years and I had a boyfriend for almost 3 years but we broke up. The day my friend heard that I was thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend, he kissed me. I was heartbroken and in a really bad place, so we ended up having sex, which continued sporadically for 6 months. We never talked about it, still kept things platonic outside of the sporadic hooking up, but I noticed that he stopped talking about his girlfriend. I figured it was because he felt guilty, since he has been with her this whole time, but sometimes it seems like he makes a significant effort to erase the existence of her when I am around, to the point where I think it's something other than guilt. Recently, I went on a date. I did not tell my friend that I went on a date, but he had been badgering me the week prior to get the roster back since I fell off on the dating scene, so I was inspired to give this guy I had seen a second chance. This guy that I went to go see lived in the city, which I hate driving in, so I asked my friend who lives on the outskirts of the city if I could park my car by his house and Uber. He said sure, and that was that. The date was horrible. I went home. The next day my friend was clearly ignoring me and I was confused, but something personal happened that did not allow us to talk about it at all. The day after that, we had tension and eventually I asked him why he was mad and he said that it was because he liked me and didn't like that I went on a date. He had also mentioned that he needed to break up with his girlfriend. I was angry hearing that, as I felt that it was extremely hypocritical. I realized that I had feelings for him soon before that day but quickly dismissed them as it was just going to end badly for me if I pursued these feelings, so I couldn't believe he would tell me that he liked me. The problem that I am having is that ever since that day I have felt so much anger towards him. I am constantly disappointed by conversations that we have, I feel disconnected when we hang out, and I don't feel the same desire to see him as I did before. He has not broken up with his girlfriend, and I never believed that he was going to. He will go between seeming interested in me and not replying to me for days. One day when we hung out I said what happened to us, when we were unable to hold a conversation, and he replied, "You're getting over me." However, when I brought this up days later to ask what he meant by that, he never really answered the question. I am having trouble making sense of his actions and words. I cannot get a grasp on what he is thinking, and I do not feel comfortable asking him directly. I do not want to be with this person. I do not think that after everything we have been doing we will have a very successful or happy relationship if we could ever even get to that point. I wish that things could go back to the way they were before, but I know that they cannot. I can't figure out if he likes me and is trying to feel things out to see if he should break up with his girlfriend, or if he thinks that these are things that he thinks I want to hear so that we can continue to go behind her back. I am sad that I am losing a friend no matter what happens. I know that I am just as much responsible for it and that it is my fault that I am in this situation. I do not plan on continuing to have contact with him, but I am hoping that getting others' interpretation of the situation will help me stop spiraling from thinking about everything. I think I already know that I was just a convenient lay for him, and that he does not care about me, and it breaks my heart that I was dumb enough to believe that we were genuinely friends. Comment. So he wants to be with you but he's keeping his girlfriend on the hook as a backup? Sounds like he has a bad case of greener grass syndrome. Just be glad he revealed his true colors before you got more entangled with him. You shouldn't sleep with a guy who's in a relationship. Next story 2. My boyfriend wants to break up because of my family. What should I do to mend our relationship? I grew up in a pretty shitty household. The generational trauma is deeply rooted in my family and siblings included. I am lucky enough to have gone through counseling and have supportive friends to break out of my generational trauma. It's still a WIP. However, I do have my fair share of conflicts with my parents and siblings due to differing opinions and their big ass egos. I have shared my troubles openly with my partner since the very beginning. He was very sweet with all of it at the start. Perhaps he did not know any better. We have been dating for 1.5 years. He has met my family a few times for meals but never interacted with them much. It was brought up recently that it bothered him in regards to my family background and how it may affect our future together. He is worried that my parents would demand money from him if we got married, and he does not want his future kids to be around my siblings. I tried to communicate and propose boundaries but he does not seem to be receptive. He told me he does not see a future with me and wanted a few months to think through whether he wanted to stay together. It does not help that his parents do not like me because of my family background as well. I love him dearly and have always tried my best in the relationship. He recognizes it too, but he is unable to look past my family background easily. It is understandably so, but I would still like to work things out with him. Any advice on how I could go about doing so? Comment. We aren't often gifted with a crystal ball to see what the future may bring, but I think in his case he has clearly divined what the future will look like. And he doesn't like what he sees. I guess for him the understanding that your family will always be there and will be exactly who they always have been, and that if he continues with you, they will in effect be his family as well, is not what he wants. You do have your work cut out for you though, with one side, his, actively working against what you had/have, and yours working against it just by being themselves. It's really hard to see how you could ever navigate your way through this. He doesn't have a problem with your family background. His problem is the fact that you are still hanging around them. Boundaries would be, don't be in contact with people who have hurt you and haven't stopped and haven't made up for the last hurts. I dated a girl once who had an abusive mother. I absolutely hated her mother. How on earth could I be around someone who beat up the woman I cared about as a child? I wanted to punch her, get my GF away from her. But for whatever reason my GF wouldn't break contact with her abuser. We eventually broke up, and now that I am married and a father, I'm so glad I didn't stay with that woman. I wouldn't want my kids around that mother-in-law. Next story 3. Devastated, my now ex decided to end things after 5 years. How do you start to grieve and heal? I'm so lost. My now ex told me a few days ago after I got back from work that she's been thinking for some time now, and she's decided that, although she loves me, she doesn't love me in the right way anymore and doesn't want to drag things on and let either of us get hurt. Fair. Though, it caught me off guard and I genuinely didn't see it coming. So, I'd like to start by saying that I have zero resentment for her. She's an absolutely lovely person and I genuinely love her as much as it's possible to love somebody. We broke up around a year ago and were apart for 3 months. Due to my job, I had a mental breakdown and made a horrible mistake, ending things between us. We managed to work things out and I moved back in with her. We've moved away from where we lived to start a new life together near her family in a lovely town with amazing surroundings. I got a better job that, although means me working a lot of hours, means that I'm far less stressed. I got back from work one evening and she said that she needed to talk to me and that for a while she just hasn't been loving me the same. She said that she's thought really hard about it and she's 100% decided. I'm pretty broken inside and trying to find a room or apartment to move into locally. We share a room but have different beds, nothing to do with anything except us being light sleepers, and it's helped us both. So, we've decided to be friends and share the room until I find a place. I have no hard feelings towards her, I'm just in so much pain, and although it's cliche, I honestly don't understand how I'll ever wake up and not wonder how she's doing or think about the little things that we had, the corny but cute little things that all couples have that you build over the years. I'm hurting and just need to know that things will be okay. I have nobody around here, so my life is very much just gonna be work and trying to work out if I can build my own future. I feel lost. I'm sure I'm far from the first, but my feelings are mine. I'm human and I need some reassurance because right now I'm just hurting so much. How do you even go about starting to heal? Comment. I'm truly sorry for your heartbreak. Healing after a breakup, especially a long-term relationship, is a journey. It is okay to grieve and mourn the end of the relationship. Surround yourself with a support system, whether it's friends, family, or therapy. Engage in activities that bring you joy and self-discovery. Avoid suppressing feelings, instead, allow yourself to process and reflect. Time will lessen the pain, and new experiences and memories will fill the void. Healing isn't linear, but with each day, the pain fades a bit more. Your feelings are valid, and you will find happiness and peace again. Perhaps the stages of grief will help, as it feels just like a death. It is an old saying that is true, it takes a lot of time, typically 1 month or more for every year together. Force yourself to get up, get dressed and do things. Little by little you will think about her less and start living more in your new normal. You are not only losing your relationship but your way of life. What you do day to day needs to change. Be kind to yourself. Stage 1, Denial. Grief is an overwhelming emotion. It's not unusual to respond to the strong and often sudden feelings by pretending the loss or change isn't happening. Denying it gives you time to more gradually absorb the news and begin to process it. This is a common defense mechanism and helps numb you to the intensity of the situation. As you move out of the denial stage, however, the emotions you've been hiding will begin to rise. You'll be confronted with a lot of sorrow you've denied. That is also part of the journey of grief, but it can be difficult. Examples of the denial stage. Breakup or divorce, they're just upset. This will be over tomorrow. Job loss, they were mistaken. They'll call tomorrow to say they need me. Death of a loved one, she's not gone. She'll come around the corner any second. Terminal illness diagnosis, this isn't happening to me. The results are wrong. Was this helpful? Stage 2, anger. Where denial may be considered a coping mechanism, anger is a masking effect. Anger is hiding many of the emotions and pain that you carry. This anger may be redirected at other people, such as the person who died, your ex, or your old boss. You may even aim your anger at inanimate objects. While your rational brain knows the object of your anger isn't to blame, your feelings in that moment are too intense to act according to that. Anger may mask itself in feelings like bitterness or resentment. It may not be clear-cut fury or rage. Not everyone will experience this stage of grief. Others may linger here. As the anger subsides, however, you may begin to think more rationally about what's happening and feel the emotions you've been pushing aside. Examples of the anger stage. Breakup or divorce, I hate him. He'll regret leaving me. Job loss, they're terrible bosses. I hope they fail. Death of a loved one, if she cared for herself more, this wouldn't have happened. Terminal illness diagnosis, where is God in this? How dare God let this happen? Was this helpful? Stage 3, bargaining. During grief, you may feel vulnerable and helpless. In those moments of intense emotions, it's not uncommon to look for ways to regain control or to want to feel like you can affect the outcome of an event. In the bargaining stage of grief, you may find yourself creating a lot of what if and if only statements. It's also not uncommon for religious individuals to try to make a deal or promise to God or a higher power in return for healing or relief from the grief and pain. Bargaining is a line of defense against the emotions of grief. It helps you postpone the sadness, confusion, or hurt. Examples of the bargaining stage. Breakup or divorce, if only I had spent more time with her, she would have stayed. Job loss, if only I worked more weekends, they would have seen how valuable I am. Death of a loved one, if only I had called her that night, she wouldn't be gone. Terminal illness diagnosis, if only we had gone to the doctor sooner, we could have stopped this. Was this helpful? Stage 4, depression. Whereas anger and bargaining can feel very active, depression may feel like a quiet stage of grief. In the early stages of loss, you may be running from the emotions, trying to stay a step ahead of them. By this point, however, you may be able to embrace and work through them in a more healthful manner. You may also choose to isolate yourself from others in order to fully cope with the loss. That doesn't mean, however, that depression is easy or well defined. Like the other stages of grief, depression can be difficult and messy. It can feel overwhelming. You may feel foggy, heavy, and confused. Depression may feel like the inevitable landing point of any loss. However, if you feel stuck here or can't seem to move past the stage of grief, you can talk with a mental health expert. A therapist can help you work through this period of coping. Examples of the depression stage. Breakup or divorce, why go on at all? Job loss, I don't know how to go forward from here. Death of a loved one, what am I without her? Terminal illness diagnosis, my whole life comes to this terrible end. Was this helpful? Stage 5, acceptance. Acceptance is not necessarily a happy or uplifting stage of grief. It doesn't mean you've moved past the grief or loss. It does, however, mean that you've accepted it and have come to understand what it means in your life now. You may feel very different in this stage. That's entirely expected. You've had a major change in your life, and that upends the way you feel about many things. Look to acceptance as a way to see that there may be more good days than bad. There may still be bad, and that's okay. Examples of the acceptance stage. Breakup or divorce, ultimately, this was a healthy choice for me. Job loss, I'll be able to find a way forward from here and can start a new path. Death of a loved one, I am so fortunate to have had so many wonderful years with him, and he will always be in my memories. Terminal illness diagnosis, I have the opportunity to tie things up and make sure I get to do what I want in these final weeks and months. I hope this helpful in some small way.